Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are joining us from. We are here today with Lynn DiCostanzo, who's the CEO of MSP Toolkit. We are also joined with Pierluigi Stella, who is the CTO, founder, and president of NetworkBox USA. Welcome, guys.
Hey, well, thanks for having us here, Scott.
Always a pleasure to have you guys on board.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Where's everyone at?
I love the radio voice right there too, Scott. I mean, that was it looks like you did that in your past. I know I've said it. Yeah, I'm hailing from Boston right now, and it's starting to turn into a nice kind of good spring kind of day here. So feeling real good. Feeling real good.
Awesome. Pierluigi, how about you? Where are you located at?
Houston.
And
okay. It's already 82, 83 today. So
I got you. Well, I'm kind of in the middle, and if we drew a triangle, I think I'd be over in South Carolina, and it is 64 degrees. So it's supposed to get up in the 80s, and I don't know. That sounds great, though, to be in Boston, Lynn. Good weather there.
Oh, yeah, I love it. It's great little spot. I can't believe a New Yorker in Boston. Kind of interesting.
Well, I understand, guys, that we are going to be discussing the SASE market opportunity that MSPs have to strengthen their network and the security using Gartner's SASE model.
Yes, that's it. We're here today to talk. I think, a topic that's been around. I see it a lot more in the MSP channel. I think it's been up in the enterprise for several years. We'll kind of touch on the history of it real quickly, but definitely a great opportunity for MSPs to kind of alter how they approach and deliver. Well, I guess, Pierluigi, we talked about perimeter defense. You're having a moat around your castle, your headquarters. Now it's more about an edge defense and bringing that security, network and security closer to the user. So a great opportunity for MSPs to have a different conversation with their clients and actually internally and how they kind of look at delivering networking and cybersecurity services to their client base.
Well, that is excellent, but I have to stop you and ask you a question. Forgive my ignorance, but we may have some other members on this live stream who may not be familiar with Gartner's SASE model. Can you kind of explain what that is?
Well, I'll tell you what, Scott. I can explain it, but that's going to be taken away from a very important slide in the presentation. So
I got you. Well, we'll hold tight. We'll let you go use the slide.
Yeah, I think as we go through the session, we're certainly going to talk about what SASE is, what it's made up of, and how to take the SASE framework and turn it into an opportunity. And that opportunity kind of comes in many ways, right? Consolidating tools for a partner and improving their resource utilization and making it simpler and more efficient for them to manage network and cybersecurity or remote access for their client base, for their users. So I think
it's a lot.
It's a lot of stuff, and it's nothing really new for an MSP. Like SASE is more of, identifying some trends out there, and we'll talk about them, but identifying a trend and going, gee, how do we make it simpler for the MSP to deliver better cybersecurity and network and services to their client? And, I'm here with Pierluigi. I've been doing a lot of work with Pierluigi and NetworkBox USA. And what I saw with NetworkBox was it kind of felt like they're doing SASE before SASE was called SASE, right?
I gotcha.
It was introduced. And that's why I've enjoyed working with Pierluigi. He gets it. His firm gets it. And I do think MSPs have an opportunity now, especially because cybersecurity is so complex. We know there's a ton of vendors out there hawking cybersecurity products, but at the end of the day, that MSP is going to have a lot of tools in their hands that they've got to learn, a lot of different dashboards. And we know it, having been an MSP, I mean, I've been in this industry a long time. I started my MSP before MSPs were called MSPs back in like 84 or 5. As you can see, I've been around a bit.
You're not that old, are you?
Yeah, I'm getting there. I don't know. I think Pierluigi, he and I are running neck and neck, but bottom line, been doing it a while, seen a lot of trends, a lot of things happen. But one of the things I know is I'm trying to provide remote access and mobile access to clients since 1988, whatever, when the first modem came out. So I've seen it all. And when I started working with Pierluigi and Network Box, I realized that they had something just a little bit different, a little bit unique. And more importantly, today with this complexity, I think MSPs always battle, are they going to do it themselves and learn everything and hire the right people who have to know a multitude of solutions? Or are you going to outsource certain components of what you're delivering? Your service delivery capabilities can greatly be enhanced if you partner. And I think we see a lot of that now, Scott, right? Just look at ITBOG. Bunch of peers working together, sharing and helping each other out. And I remember my career kind of spanned from an MSP. I don't know who else might be watching, but I was at Kaseya for about 2 years, helping build a global MSP community. I was at Autotask for 12 years almost before we were acquired and merged with Datto. And been working with MSPs a long time. And again, everybody's been providing this type of service, but I just think right now is a unique opportunity to change the conversation and partner with folks who do things, I don't want to say better than you, but with more hands-on approach. Like if you're in cybersecurity, or if you're an MSP, now you're in cybersecurity, that's a big leap. And not only in cybersecurity, but now you got a lot of tools and a lot of different, ways you could deploy stuff. And I think what happens sometimes is you got to work with your peers, you got to partner. And that's one of the topics we'll kind of cover today,
Excellent. Excellent. Well, you are certainly the right person for this, Lynn. You are definitely, based on what you just said, you are a channel veteran, I would call you. So you've been around the IT channel block several times, huh?
Oh, I've been there, and Pierluigi has as well. I know he's keeping quiet, but Pierluigi, maybe you want to share a little bit about yourself, and then we can kind of get rolling. And I'll be bringing Pierluigi, and I'm going to go through a few slides, and kind of talk through SASE and MSP benefits. But I'll bring Pierluigi in for his commentary. But let's hear about Pierluigi's incredible experience.
Well, just as you, I've been doing this for a very long time, right? I didn't start with cybersecurity. I was at IBM for a very long time doing completely different things. IT in the process of petroleum industry. I believe I was their first certified professional in process of petroleum. We were developing databases and applications to run the refineries. Actually, software I wrote is, I don't know if it's still running, but it was running. It probably is, but at the time it was running in refineries in China and somewhere in many places in Europe and the US. Then I left in 2002 because I wanted to do things on my own. And at the time I felt that the internet was becoming too big to not be a problem at some point. It was a good foresight, right? Cybersecurity.
That is good foresight.
I don't know if you guys even know this, but in 2003, we had like 25,000 signatures total for the year. Today, we deploy that many in one day. Okay, imagine the magnitude. It's become so. I mean, it's become something that touches everybody's lives, and so that's why I started Network Box USA in 2003, and it's been fun keeping up with all the changes since. I try, I should say, to pride myself into innovation. As Len was saying, it is true. We've been doing a framework like SASE for at least 10 years now. Obviously, I wasn't calling it SASE, I wasn't calling it SD1, I wasn't calling it SWG, right? But that doesn't matter. The point is, the vast majority of our clients have been on a SASE infrastructure framework for at least 10 years. Wow. Not only none of them has ever complained or ever wanted to say or regretted, but when we'll go over this more in detail, when COVID came about, they were all happy that they were on this framework. And I'll give you the explanation later. I'll give you the tease right now.
how SASE helped them navigate through the initial problems of everybody home and COVID and all the other things that happened.
You know what,
Okay.
Scott, it's funny, like talking with you now and having Pierluigi here, it's like, we were gonna kind of deliver content, but maybe let's pop through some slides and just do, kind of go through it and,
Go
Yeah.
for it.
I mean, basically, that's what we're gonna do. I mean, this webinar here is sponsored by NetworkBox. You just heard from Pierluigi. And one of the things, I joined Pierluigi been working with Pierluigi and helping him build out his partner program for MSPs. Formerly, they were focused on, selling direct to businesses, but Pierluigi made a call and said, look, I got to expand my partner community because it's a great opportunity for him to scale, because obviously MSPs have clients and they're out there solving these challenges every day. And Pierluigi and NetworkBox USA have moved to a channel model, and I'm kind of here helping build out the partner program, some key elements, benefits, things like that, to help NetworkBox kind of get into the channel. So we're to kind of talk a little bit about their solutions. They're based out of Houston. They've got some incredible proprietary technology that I think is unique in the industry. You're going to find a lot of vendors have, pieces of solutions that don't necessarily work together. They don't talk to each other, not integrated really well, and you're still managing disparate solutions. And we'll hear about NetworkBox's proprietary stack, and we're going to walk through. You asked about SASE, what is it? We're going to talk about Gartner's SASE framework. We're going to talk about how MSPs are need to consider certain things as they make their move into this SASE framework, into the SASE model, and we'll definitely give some tips how they can get started quickly. I'll bring Pierluigi in to chat a little bit how NetworkBox USA can help accelerate a partner's path to SASE. And hopefully we can get a few questions out there and respond to them. So that's kind of what we're going to cover today. And here's your number one question, right? What is SASE and why do you need it? And that's why we're here. And it's all about enabling secure access to data, applications, for any user from anywhere, from any device, right?
Okay.
And it's, why we're talking about it today, why we're talking about SASE today. And it is because there is that need for secure anywhere, anytime access to apps and services. And that little tagline, with as little overhead as possible, is really the driver here, right? It used to be a VPN. It used to be about, again, putting that moat around headquarters and making sure you had this great perimeter defense. And in chat with Pierluigi, we're just kind of seeing this as more of an edge defense game. And, how do you protect that user as close to where they are and make their access to, SaaS apps and to headquarters as efficient as possible? And I guess, Scott, even yourself, I'm sure you've been out there providing remote access to clients.
Absolutely.
And, I remember my big solution back in the day. Well, I don't even want to show my age and talk about a product called Crosstalk or PC Anywhere for remote access.
I remember PC Anywhere, Semantic, PC Anywhere.
Yeah, but Citrix became my choice after after a while, and that became a really solid product. So we've all been trying to do it. I just think it was about bringing about multiple technologies that don't necessarily work together, multiple policies, multiple admin consoles, inefficient designs, like putting a VPN to a remote user so they can go into headquarters to then get out to the cloud or to get out to other services or other branch offices. And, it just adds a lot of overhead, a lot of latency. And I think that's where SASE kind of comes in, reducing overhead, complexity, making it simpler to provide this type of solution to clients. So that's why we're here talking about SASE. And you can see it's Secure Access Service Edge, and that's the SASE acronym kind of broken out. And really, it's been around a bit. 2019, when I say a bit, was at 4 years now.
Okay.
And what's interesting, it was defined in 2019 pre-COVID. And we all know Gartner, they're all about looking at trends and identifying what's going on out there. And, writing about it. And of course, sometimes there's a pay to play kind of focus there with an organization like Gartner or Forrester. But that's okay, because they're paid to observe what's going on, and they saw the convergence of cybersecurity and networking, and whether vendors were consolidating or integrating, and really realizing themselves how difficult it is to manage multiple disparate security and networking solutions that just don't work together. And really, the goal of SASE is to provide that secure network service anywhere the user connects from. And as you can see from that diagram, it's now about an edge, right? You've got all your users, your contractors, whether internal, external users, remote, mobile, branch, office. You want to be, dealing with protecting that user from where they're accessing their services, their data, their applications. And you can see inside that edge a bunch of, you got your public cloud, you got office, you even got headquarters and your data center. And really, you just want to get that secure access really close to the user. And it's all about as a service, right? Everybody's moving to the cloud, and SASE is all about delivering converged network and security as a service from the cloud. And I know, Pierluigi, you feel really strongly about, where the cloud fits in today into the MSP arsenal, right?
I feel strongly that the cloud is finally evolving into something that people do not fear. The cloud has had a very strange mixed history. At the beginning, 2005, we had some major problems, like Amazon lost a couple data centers and people were worried about the cloud. And then the FBI didn't help, because one day they went in and stole literally a bunch of computers and took 3,000 companies down in 1 hour. So it had a bit of a rough beginning, but today, finally, the cloud is very well established, and it is the place to be. My opinion is, in a few years, nobody's going to buy servers in an office anymore. It just makes no sense from an economical standpoint, from many other reasons, scalability, and you can talk for hours about why. Why would you buy servers and create your own private thing and be awake at night because a disk broke? Let somebody else do it, and just deal with it properly, right? Just deal with the cloud the way it should be dealt with.
It's funny you say that, Pierluigi, because 2008 I joined Autotask. Actually, 2006 I was with Kaseya, and their RMM was an on-prem tool. And I remember talking to the team there at the time and saying, "Gee, you should move that into the cloud." And they're like, "Heck no, we want to put servers in every MSP's office, and then a second one when they grow really big." Then I joined Autotask 08. That was a pure cloud product, SaaS product, one of the first actually out there in the channel. And I remember a prime competitor at the time, or two, all on-prem, and they would actually try to compete by saying, "Autotask is in the cloud. Why do you want to go there?" Right?
Yeah.
So, and that's 2008, 9, even into 2010.
It wasn't too long ago, true.
And I remember suddenly seeing our competition putting clouds on their website and talking about how the cloud is relevant. So I think we've seen it, come of age, like you're saying. And what you see here on this little diagram, this is a little cutout from Gartner, but it is all about, let me just grab my little kind of pen here, but you got users anywhere, you got employees, contractors, partners, all looking to get on over here to access applications, data, whatever they need to get to. And again, these are folks out on the edge. And how do they get across securely and efficiently to access their resources, which could be anywhere. And
on any device.
On any device, right? And you could see mobile, any type of device that they're on. And it's all about, putting them through this SASE cloud infrastructure, which combines WAN edge services, as you can see, and security services, all kind of wrapped up, working together to provide that secure environment for that user, that employee, that contractor looking to get over through and securely into their applications and their data. And you could see some of the technologies here. And let me just see if I grab a little highlighter here, because I love using my little highlighter. But, you know, SSE, you got your WAN service edge, but SD-WAN, you know, I'm sure there's many MSPs I talked to deploying SD-WAN, secure web gateway, you know, encryption, decryption, all of this, firewall, right? Everybody's been doing firewall, VPN, but they were different solutions, disparate solutions, separate administration. And what Gartner identified is these offerings are coming together, and they need to come together to provide a better environment. And what's happening is there's a big evolution going on. We'll have some market stats in a second, but typically, you know, this is an enterprise view because most things start at the enterprise level, but Gartner talks about a siloed environment inside of enterprise IT and purchasing. Perhaps there's, you know, 5 vendors with 5 different purchasing agents, you know, buying 5 different solutions, right? And everyone's dealing with that solution on their own. And what Gartner is saying, you got to start to consolidate. And I don't remember exactly who said it, but, you know, all across the spectrum, heck, if you look back at Autotask, we combined, you know, 6, 7, 8 point solutions into one: CRM, project management, ticketing. And it was new in 2008-9. A PSA was new because it brought these point solutions together. And what you see with SASE is bringing together these disparate point solutions and looking to put them under one umbrella. And what Gartner is saying here is you may have a bunch of different solutions and different vendors, but you got to start to consolidate down, start maybe breaking out networking and cybersecurity, and start whittling yourself down to maybe 2 vendors. And it says buyers here, but I'll kind of show you how I perceive it for MSPs, because the real goal here is to get down to one consolidated solution where you can kind of admin and orchestrate your policies across these different solutions, which now work together. So from an MSP's point of view, do you want to buy 5 solutions from 5 vendors, or do you want to have one vendor with, you know, perhaps not best of breed of everything, but certainly working towards that, but a simpler administration, more efficient, right? Less resource utilization. And that's really what the SASE evolution is about, is getting yourself to start consolidating and realizing this is happening, and you don't want to be kind of left out in the dark, right? And have, you know, be the one that's managing, you know, a disparate environment and struggling to really support and secure your client base and their anywhere access needs, right? So this is the SASE evolution. And as you're making that move, there are a lot of benefits for MSPs and their clients, and that's what it's all about. I think MSPs need to realize it's about securing and protecting their clients and themselves. And SASE offers benefits, again, an incremental recurring revenue opportunity and profitability. I'll touch on it in a second, but it has to be, you know, it's tough when you talk to an MSP about the potential profit and revenue from providing cybersecurity, because it's obviously a touchy kind of topic, but it is also a business. And MSP is trying to run a business, generate revenue and profit. So we want to touch on that incremental recurring revenue opportunity, time and cost savings through flexible design, ease of administration and automation, reduce complexity with, you know, a single admin console. And we're going to touch on, like, maybe an MSP doesn't even want to touch it, and it could really be a reduced complexity if they're outsourcing to a strategic vendor partner who does it for them. And it becomes about consistent policy enforcement with decentralization. And we know the world's decentralized today. Certainly COVID pushed digital transformation at warp speed, right, to the next level. And, you know, as people are working home, ooh, Scotty, we just started the recording. Oh my goodness.
I didn't notice that until now.
Oh my gosh, Scotty.
Well, I think we can recover. Keep going.
All right, let's go. I could have sworn I saw that message earlier. It's a shame.
I thought I did too.
I saw it. Well, we've been having a great conversation. If the recording has just started, you know, great conversation around SASE, and we're kind of ended up here, like, just to get folks seeing. I'm going to have to go back, Scotty. Who knows? But We talked about why SASE, why you need it. We talked about, the need for secure anywhere, anytime access, and MSPs already doing it for a long time, but, disparate solutions, a lot of overhead, and SASE kind of coming on in and trying to consolidate all these tools and taking perimeter defense and making an edge defense kind of scenario, right? No more moats around headquarters. You got to bring that security closer to the user. And that's what SASE is all about. Gartner defined it in 2019. Here we are in 2023, starting to really see it out there over the last several months from some of the top vendors. But it kind of started out in the enterprise, and really Gartner observed in consolidation of vendors, integrations, and the real need to kind of intertwine a bunch of security and networking solutions into one framework, which we call SASE now. And we kind of just walked through the SASE evolution, right? As an MSP, this is actually an enterprise view that we talked through, because kind of most of these things will start at the enterprise and then kind of come down to that SMB world. So typically 5 buyers buying 5 different solutions in a very siloed environment inside the enterprise, with the goal of trying to consolidate your vendors, consolidate your solutions. And Gartner talks about networking and cybersecurity as really the 2 places to start consolidating, getting yourself down to 2 vendors and may bring these solutions together down to where you get one vendor that you buy as an MSP. So we take it from the enterprise side. We try to position it here for an MSP where you're not a buyer in purchasing, buying something for a siloed enterprise entity, but you're an MSP dealing with multiple technologies from multiple vendors. You want to get it down to where you're looking at, SD-WAN, SWG, firewall as a service from one vendor, reducing that complexity. And that's kind of where we got to here. Why SASE for MSPs? Lots of benefits. Talked about driving some incremental recurring revenue and profitability, time and cost savings through flexible design, ease of use, ability to kind of provide a consistent policy enforcement across multiple solutions that now work together in a SASE environment, and offering that better protection and a more seamless end user experience. If you think about an end user being mobile in the recent past, it's VPN into headquarters and then kind of go out and get to their resources. And definitely that latency, could be a problem in terms of performance and user experience. So it ultimately comes down to giving your users a great experience. But as you can see on that little kind of tagline there, how do you get to SASE, right? Do you build it all on your own? Do you buy someone that's doing it? Do you partner to realize these benefits? We did touch on a little bit earlier about, peers working together and partnering being much more favorable now. And that's really, what you have to consider. Do you want to go through it on your own or with a strategic partner who might help you get there? And I know we're talking SASE, networking and cybersecurity, Scott, but one of the things that I still think about and wonder, every MSP has an RMM. Otherwise, you're not an MSP, right? You got to have PSA or a ticketing system. But, what about SIM? Everybody kind of looks at SIM as a luxury, right? Security, information, and event management is your RMM, right, for cybersecurity. And it's giving you the view into your client's network infrastructure, grabbing logs from any device that produce a log and correlating that data and trying to find if anything's going on, and if you're not using SIM to extend your SASE or any of those individual solutions, you're at a disadvantage. It shouldn't be an option anymore to deploy SIM. And I know Pierluigi feels really strong about SIM. So I know Pierluigi, if you want to kind of jump in and what do you see with SIM?
What I see is that actually there is another conversation that fits into this very nicely about compliance. I suggest looking up for the White House National Cybersecurity Framework that just came up a week ago. That goes along the lines of CMMC. They're expanding the concept of CMMC to all the private sector, independently of whether you you do work with the government or not, with the Department of Defense or not. That means that if you are my provider and I get a problem and I can trace it back to you, unless you can demonstrate that you did everything in your power to follow best practices for cybersecurity, you become liable, which until today was not the case. If you caused me a problem until today, I would have had a hard time suing you because the idea was I should have protected myself. Now the idea is, yes, I should have, but I should have too. And therefore, the expansion of these tools becomes very important for every company, and not just for those that are in regulated industries, where the auditor comes in and says, you have to have a CM. That was the past. Today, you better have it, because if something happens, you should be able to demonstrate that you were adhering to the NIST framework, because it's the standard accepted, not because it's mandatory. Nobody says it has to be the NIST. You can pick up another one, but I'm just talking about the NIST because it's the most widely known and accepted, and that you did everything in your power. It still happened, but at least you didn't show negligence, if nothing else.
Well, you know what's interesting, Pierluigi, is that's incredible. I know you shared that article with me, and hopefully MSPs are out there. I mean, I do. We've seen a couple of breaches, right, Scott, in the MSP world. No need to bring up the different vendors that unfortunately acted as a leapfrog for bad actors into MSP client environments. But it used to be, hey, yeah, there's HIPAA compliance and there's CMMC, where a third-party auditor, whereas HIPAA, it's kind of on your own. You do it. If you get caught and you weren't doing it, then you're in trouble. And I think MSPs were following the NIST framework. They were following their own best practices, but now, you have to, and your client has to know they need to be secure and doing the best they can. And we're talking SIM here. So if you're not using a SIM, and if you're not, putting in the proper cybersecurity and networking offerings to protect that client, then that client, if they're used as a leapfrog to their third parties or vendors, your client's going to be in trouble and they may come for you. So I think it really just creates an opportunity to have these conversations. And as Pierluigi said, for clients of all sizes and types of an MSP to do the right thing and properly protect themselves. And that kind of leads us really into this market opportunity.
Allow me for one snippet, okay? Think of it this way. Something happens, right? And you are in front of a board or in front of a judge, by all means, there could be. And the last thing you want to be able to say is, hell if I know. Why? Because you don't have a CM, you don't have a log, you don't know what happened, because the logs are 6 months ago and they're lost. It's really not a good position to be in, no matter who is on the other side listening. A CM puts you in a much better position where you can go say, I have the logs, let me go check it. I'll give you an answer. At least you can do that, if nothing else.
And Scott,
CM is much more than that. Okay.
It's much more, but we talked early on about how long we've been in this space. And if you see that last line there, I think SIM is as relevant to MSPs as an RMM.
Yeah.
And, you can't be an MSP without an RMM. And if you're supposed to be into cybersecurity, protecting your clients and looking for things, just like an RMM, monitoring and managing across your client base, that's what SIM allows you to do. But we're here to talk about SASE, the market opportunity. And Scott, as we were flashing through these slides, you're like, wow, that's big, right? $14.7 billion is a lot of dough. And certainly the growth over 5 years is going to be tremendous to get to that 14.7 billion. And this is really where Gartner kind of identified these trends. You could see that little graph. Unfortunately, it's a little graph, but I wanted to have it in there. And we can kind of go through, and you see here, it is ZTNA, it's CASB, it's SWG, firewall, the main components of a SASE solution. Each of these represent the growth. Now, of course, starting with COVID, we could see, boom, it kind of went up. And I think maybe the graph would have been like that because that's how digital transformation was moving at the time. And yeah, I'll get there. Yeah, I'm moving to the cloud. But boy, oh boy, when everybody got sent home and you kind of thought, all right, we're home temporarily, but that's not the case, right? It's a hybrid environment. Everybody's working wherever they want to work. It's very accepted. Obviously a move to get folks back in the office, but with each of these solutions growing, you realize, and they should all be working together. They're all trying to provide that same, secure remote access offering for end users, but you got to put them together in a SASE world and simplify deployment and management. Here we got a couple of stats again from the enterprise. 80% of enterprises are going to adopt a strategy to unify web, cloud, and private apps using a SASE architecture. And that's up from 20%, 2021, 2 years after Gartner talked about SASE. 65% will have consolidated, which means they're in process of consolidating right now. So if they're going to have consolidated to one or two explicitly partnered SASE vendors, whether they're partnered and integrated together, you're seeing that the evolution is happening that we kind of just touched on. And SD-WAN, instead of buying it by itself, it's going to be part of a single vendor SASE offering. Again, increasing tremendously since 2021 from 10%. So the trends are there. Gartner sees the trend. They built that SASE framework around these trends. And at the end of the day, you have to consider it as an MSP. And as soon as you mention the big market opportunity, I always kind of reduce it down to a very simple opportunity for MSPs. It's in your client base. And, because if you look at that 14.7 billion, you might say, how am I going to get my hands on that? That is out of reach. And bottom line, look in your client base. We'll kind of touch on some of the key points later on, but where do you have an opportunity to begin consolidating? Start looking at some vendors and get yourself, into consolidation mode, because it's not only SASE consolidating solutions. There are other vendors out there consolidating multiple point cybersecurity solutions, just like we talked about earlier with Autotask, a PSA combining multiple point solutions. And for MSPs, that should be a relief because, I've seen 30, 40 offerings in a stack now, all from different vendors, and an MSP has to learn them and deploy them and manage them, especially because threats are coming from all angles. We're talking SASE, but look at all these different threats coming from all angles, insider threats, DDoS, email fraud, malware, ransomware attacks, everything kind of, coming together as these bad actors are just figuring many different ways to kind of come on in and hack an environment and grab some confidential information and grab some data and make some money, right? It's a business now, right? I'm always amazed when I watch a presentation from a vendor showing how the dark web operates. And you just got to be ready from, be prepared to protect your client and yourself from all angles. And SASE is really the tip of the iceberg, the way I look at it, or certainly perhaps the bottom of the iceberg. It's somewhere in there, right, Scott? But yep. The opportunity is now, right? When we talk about the opportunity in your client base, if you think about the pandemic, how did you respond as an MSP? How did your clients respond? Did they look at it as a temporary move? Did you put a Band-Aid solution in? Did you still say VPN into the office where the server is, and then kind of go out and grab your apps wherever they may be? Were true upgrades deferred or not even thought about? Because again, you thought everything was going to go back to normal, and we'll go back to the pace of digital transformation as it was happening. So, I say you're not in Kansas anymore, not a knock on Kansas, but, hopefully people who know the Wizard of Oz, they realize, it's a different world now. And MSPs are relied upon every day by their clients to protect their data and their business. And SASE should be on their radar. And I think, if I've heard it once, it's a million times, but, your client thinks you're doing it for them. So either you should be doing it, or you better be talking to them about how to do it because they think you're doing it. And, one of the things I wanted to illustrate, if we're talking about your client base, most MSPs, like I say, need an RMM to build services and deploy it and remotely monitor and manage their client environments. They're using a ticketing system, a PSA, and I've come up with a bundled price. And, that's a low price for a small amount of services. I do a pretty detailed pricing session, how to price and bundle your managed services. Just took a little piece, a little slide out of a presentation I've been doing to MSPs for a bit. Bottom line is, if you're charging $50, I know everybody wants to get to 300 a seat or something to that nature. I myself was doing about 250 a seat in 98, 99. So you do want to grab as much wallet share as you can and look at some SASE ads. If you pop in secure SD-WAN, secure web gateway, you're adding a solid incremental chunk of revenue. And on top of that, maybe you can increase your service desk offering. Maybe the price for your service desk will go up because you are, again, monitoring more stuff, doing more things. Not that it's adding tools, but just consider what the impact of adding new solutions, if it's a new one, and perhaps you keep your service desk price the same because you're already deploying some of these SASE components. Now you're consolidating and reducing costs. So you might not have to raise any pricing on your service desk because you're actually reducing complexity through automation and central administration. So I always just like to throw it in there as a consideration. Do you need to increase your service desk approach while you're adding offerings into your stack, into your bundle? And you could see here, just from adding 2 components of SASE, starting to consolidate under one vendor, you're going to bring your revenue per user up. You're going to drive your recurring revenue up tremendously from $25K to $44,000, and you're going to add $4,500 of monthly recurring profit. Everybody loves MRR. I love MRP. If you don't know if you're generating profits, what are you doing this for? And if I've seen it once, I've seen it a bunch of times. And MSP's like, hey, I moved to this managed service recurring revenue model. I'm not making enough money. Well, look at your pricing model. And more importantly, I think I see a lot of MSPs actually shying away from project work and including it in their managed service. It's like, heck, if you got to roll out SD-WAN, SWG, you got to roll out anything, charge a project fee, get it done. And the difference for an MSP, or what makes an MSP different than another MSP or a vendor who provides secure SD-WAN, is the services they wrap around their offering. So wrap your services around any offering that you resell from a vendor, because ultimately that's what an MSP is doing, taking products from a vendor and reselling it or including it in their stack, and then wrap your services around it, go to market. So, just wanted to share how I could see MSPs expanding their bundle with SASE. And again, it's not trivial. I've worked with, vendors trying to get MSPs to build a dynamics practice and build a cybersecurity practice. And it's a lot of work, right? To not only build a practice, but to continue to grow and expand a practice. So while MSPs may already have a networking practice or cybersecurity practice, think about that long-term investment, evaluating multiple vendors and tools and developing that product knowledge that you need to actually craft the services around those tools, and then learning multiple complex solutions and do they work together. So it's a lot. Hiring and retaining cyber engineers, we hear it all the time, right? And then ongoing training, and then once you get them going, they go somewhere else because they can get more money. Number 7, ISO certification, PCI attestation. Working with Pierluigi, tremendous investment they've made in these certifications at NetworkBox. Like, an MSP always wants to kind of brand a product as their own. Well, heck, if you brand a product that's ISO certified and has PCI attestation, you got to do that yourself. So don't put your logo on something if you're not it. And that's where you got to maybe consider outsourcing to trusted partners, right? Do you want to make that long-term investment to build out your knock and sock? Do you want to outsource? And again, I'll go back to my Autotest days when outsourced knocks were starting to come in, and you're like, how could an MSP outsource a knock? Well, we all got comfortable with that. And you get comfortable outsourcing a SOC. So maybe getting into SASE, maybe really developing your cybersecurity practice is about partnering with someone who's really strong and who does it every day, every minute of every day, which an MSP may not. If you outsource to a trusted partner, quicker go to market, you're going to solve challenges now. You're going to begin your evolution to a SASE model now and get to that one unified stack with one vendor now, expanding your offerings quickly. And those vendors should have ready to use marketing assets, already have those expensive certifications in place. And it could actually lead to you building your own practice, because now you're going to see how an expert does it, and just really work hard to manage your vendor. So you're either going to get into SASE by expanding what you're doing right now, going through the long-term investment, or get there a little more quickly with a trusted partner. So Pierluigi, I saw you had a little hand raised there.
Yes, it's very important. Point number 5 is probably on the left. The higher retail is probably the most important part here about building. Yesterday, I was reading an article about this. We are 3.5 million practitioners short around the globe in cybersecurity.
Wow.
It's an amazingly staggering number, 3.5 million practitioners short. I don't even know where they got this number. I hope that maybe it was a typo in the article, because it's just unbelievable. So if the point though is we are so short on the cybersecurity practitioners that as a company that doesn't do cybersecurity, you have very little hope of hiring somebody that really is quality, that you can actually afford, and that you will be able to retain. Companies like mine will come in and hire them out from you. Not because I do it on purpose, it's just because of the nature of the market. I can't find anybody else. So the problem is, the smaller companies have a very hard time of building security practices, for the simple fact that there are no real security practitioners to go around. Yeah, you can find somebody that read a couple books, but that's not the same thing. I'm talking people that really understand it, like I have absorbed it like a sponge, and they really can do security, and that's what they do 24 hours a day. They
Scott,
are highly paid.
So, sorry, Pierluigi.
No, it's okay.
I was going to say, Scott, you obviously got a bunch of members out there, like, and you're an MSP yourself. What are you saying? Are you saying, aversion to outsourcing to trusted partners? What do you see going on?
Oh yeah, definitely. I see that, MSPs, especially for the 1 and 2 men or women MSPs, that basically, they just have themselves. I mean, let's face it, a lot of managed service providers start out as break fix techs, kind of like myself. I started out as a break fix tech years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And we have moved into the managed, but I agree 110% with what Pierluigi said. We certainly don't have the funding to afford a expert cybersecurity engineer on staff. It won't happen. I mean, we're not that kind of company. So it makes sense that
even if you do, you have one. What's
right.
one going to do? The guy never takes a day off, never sleeps.
Right.
You can't, even one, you can't. You need a team.
That's true.
Right. And you need a SOC, and you can't put together a SOC with one person.
And I guarantee you that you could get it much cheaper overall than trying to deploy it yourself and going crazy. Why not just team up with a solution like NetworkBox USA that is tried, tested, and true?
Well, what's interesting too is I chat with MSPs all the time, and what I'm seeing is, because again of the multitude of vendors and different type of solutions, every vendor is offering, not every, but many vendors offer a SOC component. Well, I see MSPs now working with 2, 3, 4 SOCs, because they work at 2, 3, 4 vendors, 2, 3, 4 different products. And, those vendors won't work with the other solutions in that MSP portfolio. So get with a vendor that not only has a SOC, but has, a bunch of offerings, proprietary offerings that all work together, and even more so done for you. And I know we've heard a lot about done for you, done with you, you do it yourself, but when you got a done for you vendor that you can actually work with and learn from, and have multiple solutions consolidated, and even not only reduce your product stack or consolidate it, but consolidate your SOCs, and it sounds kind of strange, consolidate your socks. I just did that the other day in my dresser, but to deal with multiple socks is different processes and things like that. So I think one of the keys here is, we just kind of touched a lot on some educational aspects of SASE, evolution, why you want to get there. And, we got Pierluigi here and obviously sponsored by NetworkBox. We just want to share, Pierluigi wants to share how NetworkBox helps MSPs seize that market opportunity. And what you see here are, the ability to quickly adopt the SASE framework with NetworkBox USA, network and cybersecurity services done for you. And you can see here, Edge Defense coming with secure SD-WAN, secure web gateway. We've got UTM Plus there, but we'll kind of touch on that. But basically, it's not just a secure SD-WAN, but there's all kinds of features and benefits inside that offering. Again, kind of given that real holistic approach to security. You got WAF in there. NetworkBox has a SIM called SIM Plus, which not only looks at the proprietary stack of offerings, but can also bring in and ingest data from other vendor offerings. And in fact, if you deploy Edge Defense from NetworkBox or WAF, it comes with a free SIM, just looking at the NetworkBox products, the NetworkBox services, with 90 days of rolling data. So it's comes with it, but if you want to look at other devices in your network, you do have to move over to SIM Plus and kind of go with a bigger solution, but it is there for you to kind of try and see what's going on should you go at Edge Defense on its own. Then a couple of more solutions, managed cloud email, reputation monitoring, and we know MSPs are delivering managed cloud email, but again, just another vendor, a lot of reputation monitoring out there, looking at the dark web, a different vendor. And here you got some key offerings put together under one roof, under one vendor. And more importantly, NetworkBox is not just about these proprietary products, and Pierluigi's, I'm sure, going to jump in here, but every NetworkBox USA service is powered by some really key differentiators. Best-in-class threat intelligence. NetworkBox was identified by Microsoft as a top 10 threat intelligence provider. There's a self-operated security response center, which basically takes that threat intelligence and works with 16 SOCs around the globe and kind of make sure that that threat intelligence is getting into those SOCs, getting into that SIM, and being able to be used to correlate what's going on and kind of raise alerts, raise threats, and then ultimately NetworkBox working with MSPs on incident response. And we know, it's really hard to kind of go at it alone in those situations, but these additional services powered by NetworkBox make a huge difference, and it's a huge differentiator. And of course, one proprietary stack, a unified GUI to administer across services. And there you go, the highest level of certifications, ISO 9001, 20,000, recently added ISO 31,000, PCI DSS 27001. So, Pierluigi, I know you're really passionate about the differentiation offered here. Any thoughts you want to share?
I think you said it very well. It's very important, though, to stress the fact that when you are buying a NetworkBox solution, you're not buying a piece of hardware or a tool, right? NetworkBox doesn't sell tools. We give you tools because we have to deliver the service through tools. But what we're selling is a all-encompassing, all-inclusive cybersecurity service where you buy our SD-WAN solution, you get the best-in-class threat intelligence. You get the security response that feeds the threat intelligence into your devices. We have the fastest time of update in the industry. It's unmatched by anybody. Once something gets into our threat intelligence database, within a few milliseconds, and let me say it again, milliseconds, that threat intelligence is on your device. And shortening the gap between knowing about the threat and you being protected is probably the single most important factor to be able to protect you properly, because the gap if it's too long, could cost you an attack. So everything that you see in black comes with every solution and every service that we do. And that really is, to me, the greatest differentiator between NetworkBox and anybody else in the industry. You don't need to go out and get your own threat intelligence. You don't need to go out and get your own SOC. You don't need to go out and do your own research. I get a lot of research in my inbox. Usually the stuff I get is about 3 weeks late compared with our stuff. Okay. In a good case, it's a couple of days late. A couple of days late, that means that there are people out there that 2 days after the threat is already out and we are already protecting, still don't know about the threat, which means for 2 days they've been exposed. And now when you find out about the threat, you need to do something about it, which means you need to go find the signatures or whatever it is, or go and modify your IPS or your firewall, whatever it is that you got to do, right? That is just not the way security can be done in 2023.
We were on a call actually with Pierluigi and I were on a call with an MSP and not too long ago where their techs are running around tickets, to update firewalls and patch devices. And you could basically eliminate a ton of busy work. And it is busy work. It's important busy work, but work that shouldn't have to be done by an MSP when it can be done in an automated fashion. So, a robust stack, proprietary, single GUI interface. And as you can see, it's not only done for you, but it can be done with you as well. Because, MSPs are the hands-on. They are going to take that first line of, defense with their client, but we're back there supporting NetworkBox USA, back there supporting their MSPs, to ensure their clients are protected all the time, 24/7, every minute. And I think that's what I really thought was pretty unique, threat intelligence and an SRC. MSPs ask all the time, what's an SRC? Never heard of it. It's a big entity at NetworkBox and really makes, a tremendous connection between threat intelligence and the SOCs and protecting MSPs and their clients. I know Pierluigi kind of loves a little overview diagram every once in a while, but any thoughts here, Pierluigi? I know you wanted to share this with folks. We had that little diagram earlier showing edge defense. This is more topographic, I guess.
This is more topographic. It shows how the most important part about this, it looks a little complicated, right? But I see a lot of SD-WAN deployments that, in my opinion, are missing the point. Because what they're doing is they are connecting all the branches to a headquarter, and they're taking internet access from the headquarter. Why are they missing the point? Because now the entire network is still dependent on that one single internet connection for their access to the 99% of what they're doing on the internet. And whether you believe it or not, most of what you do today is on the internet, is in the cloud. A lot of your vendors are already there. You lose internet access at the headquarters with that kind of architecture, you're stuck. Not only that, people from home are still connecting to their headquarter UTM devices that are protecting their network to be able to get into whatever it is that they need to get to. This is not the proper distributed architecture of 2023. Today, your core needs to be in the cloud. That's why SASE is a very important framework, because it marries the idea of secure network with a secure SD-WAN, with the security deployed in a way that can be accessed anytime, anywhere by anybody, which means the SWG. It is very important to marry the two together. The cloud in the picture is the SWG, right? You are doing everything there. You're bringing your traffic there. So every branch has independent internet access. If your headquarters gets blown up, you are still operating. That's the most important thing. Just to give you an idea, when we almost don't even have a DR plan anymore, simply because, of course we do, but our DR plan is we are constantly operating as a DR in a DR mode, because we are so completely into the cloud that when COVID happened, we just closed the computers and went home. Nothing changed. That's it. Nothing absolute. We didn't have to declare DR, right? Our stuff is in the Amazon cloud between Virginia and they have 4 regions. It's distributed. I don't even know which one I'm connected to. It doesn't matter. It's seamless. And therefore, I can work from the other side of the world, and I don't know. I got people distributed around the country. I don't care where they are. They're just working. And there is no, oh my God, I lost power in my corporate office. Now I can't work. You need to get away from that. And the SASE framework is a very great leap in the direction. It's not just about security and networking. It's about organizational thinking. It's the company of the future needs to be working this way.
Great stuff. And I think, just trying to be mindful of time. I know we had a little hiccup on the recording, did a little recovery there, but bottom line is NetworkBox has a top value proposition. And basically it's about helping MSPs protect themselves and their clients with minimal investment, with the MSP making a minimal investment in people, process, and technology, because NBUSA does networking and cybersecurity for you, or SASE, right? Proprietary stack of done for you networking and cybersecurity services aligned with SASE, monitored and managed by a Houston-based, fully staffed SOC, supported by a unique SRC with world-class threat intelligence, and helping MSPs accelerate MRR while delivering peace of mind to partners and their clients. And I'm not going to touch on the details, but I did want to put it in this presentation, and anybody listening in, if you want a copy of the presentation, you could email NetworkBox at the end. I believe it's partners@networkboxusa.com. You can certainly email me, len@msptoolkit.com. But SD-WAN, I think, most people think SD-WAN as, something to do with the network. But when you start looking at, all the inclusions in the NetworkBox SD-WAN, firewalls in there, IPS in there, VPN, DHCP server, all of the NetworkBox solutions are coming with tremendous features and benefits that all work together to protect your clients' data, their apps, and MSPs. You should be deploying this internally so you're protected as well. Every service here done for you. WAF, there you see firewall, IPS, again, SSL protection embedded into the offerings. We talked about SIM. You got cold storage, you got warm storage, you got bunch of reports that we'll touch on in a second. You got alerts, you got a SOC looking at the data, letting MSPs know what's going on. And we touched on email as certainly a big attack vector, reputation monitoring. So again, bunch of proprietary solutions under one umbrella, single unified admin, single interface for ticketing. If you need something done for you, you open one ticket across multiple solutions into the NetworkBox USA SOC. Response time, typically 7 minutes as I've seen it, looking at the numbers. And then ultimately that MSP has access to the NetworkBox dashboard. And it's not just about dashboards, ton of reports, customizable. And it's not just on your PC. Any mobile device can be used to kind of review what's going on, and again, a graphical format with customizable reports. If a bunch of canned reports in there, and I think Pierluigi, you got some kind of comments here too, but not only canned reports, but easily customizable reports if you need something special around some particular compliance standard. So Pierluigi, any thoughts in here as we get close?
Yeah, very, very quickly, because it's already far. The user interface that we were showing, everything in the user interface can be exported in a report, which means the user interface is really a report creating tool. Our standard reports have been built over the course of our 25 years in existence, based on requests from the banking industry, from PCI, and now more recently from CMMC. So you get a tool that already satisfies all of these requirements. And believe me, if there is one industry that has a stringent reporting requests, it's the banking industry. If you get those, you satisfy everybody else. In fact, I give these to hospitals. We have a lot of hospitals as our clients. They love the reporting. It's inclusive, it's comprehensive, it satisfies all the compliance requirements. And if you don't, you can create your own. We can create them for you.
Yeah, it's a great service too, by the way. You know, you don't have to know how to create it. You know, Pierluigi's team goes to work. So how does NetworkBox help you? As I mentioned, I've been working with NetworkBox, fashioning a partner program with some benefits, really all designed to help partners get, start delivering perhaps a better cybersecurity and networking experience to their client base. A unified support portal, talked about it, discounted internal use licenses, earned rebates as you kind of grow your business, a bunch of tools, sales and marketing tools we could share. And of course, top level experts, cybersecurity experts working back in the SOC. And because you don't have to really learn the solutions, NetworkBox configures boxes, that are used to deliver the service for you based on, a form you might fill out with some client information. And really, there's no technical requirement. You have to really dig deep into these products. And you want to be an MSP and deliver services on your own, take that first call. Fantastic. You want to be a reseller or an agent, NetworkBox USA will work with you in a partner choice relationship. NetworkBox will work with you on how you want to go to market, and great opportunity to maybe start out as a referral, maybe then an agent, and then move on into doing it all for yourself. Bunch of assets and awareness campaigns put together by NetworkBox, great assets to share with your client, customizing a PowerPoint for lead gen activity into your client base. Here you see a webinar we did with a partner out of Dallas, Triton, and Ron Loburn, great partner of ours, but, great content for you to share out to your base. So leaving you with some next steps, getting started with SASE, obviously get a little bit more educated. Hopefully we shared some today on what SASE is and what it means to you. And, perhaps take a look, what SASE components are you already deploying? Maybe you can see that, first off, it's always time to review your stack. I hear MSPs saying, I'll wait till the end of the year to review my stack. Well, you got to have your antenna up. I'm not telling you to move to a shiny object, but if you do find a shiny object, it might be a good thing to start, kind of evolving into using that shiny object. Look at your contract dates for services you're delivering now, maybe supplied by another vendor. Maybe there's an opportunity to, put in a new solution. And why put in multiple point solutions? Start working with a SASE vendor like NetworkBox, who gives you that single vendor SASE approach right out of the gate. And, again, looking at your client base, really key. Is it time to replace some hardware? Well, maybe it's time to move into the cloud a little bit more. Maybe, again, put that cybersecurity in the cloud, that networking in the cloud, and see where SASE fits. And really avoid dropping in point solutions going forward, and start thinking about consolidation. And then maybe as you've looked in your base and seen your solutions, looked at your contract dates, you can start to prioritize your migration or your own evolution to SASE services, cloud-based SASE services, maybe your internal deployment, maybe you closely help clients, and where do you go next? So, continue to consolidate once you get started. You're not going to find any one vendor like NetworkBox. It's not like you should jump in with NetworkBox, but certainly if you do an SD-WAN and maybe 5 components, start with one solution with NetworkBox and then move to another and another and another. It's not like it has to happen overnight. It is about a journey. SASE is a journey, not only for MSPs, but for enterprises alike. So, take a look, follow some of these steps, and begin your evolution, begin your journey. So, some next steps, really simply, review your client base and your SASE stack. What are you already using? Determine, maybe you got some gaps you can fill. Maybe you got some opportunities to consolidate, and consider partnering with NetworkBox to expand your networking and cybersecurity stack overnight. And if you're interested in working with Pierluigi and his team, you can email partners@networkboxusa.com, and you can get started now. And Scott, I know, maybe we had a few questions come in, not sure, but I know we're about out of time. Just want to share again, you can email partners@networkboxusa.com to get started. You could visit www.networkboxusa.com/partners and, start your SASE journey now with NetworkBox. Any questions out there come in, Scott? Any?
I did not see any questions. So,
Let me make one final comment
Yep.
for those. Don't be scared that it looks complicated, because you have 6 different things or 20 different things, and now you're trying to replace them, and God knows you have to plan a huge migration. It is my take on this is, if you can plug in a DVR, you can plug in our solution. We do the work for you. We plan it with you, and by the time you are deploying it, the customer probably won't even notice it. No, I mean, of course, they're not, because you're doing it, but we are going to make it as seamless as possible for your clients, to the point that don't start sweating in fear because you're making a big change. While it is a big change, we have made so many in the last 10 years, and they've all gone smooth and seamless from the beginning.
That sounds like a great closing comment too, right, Scott?
absolutely. I am excited. I'm very excited to take my clients and my MSP to the next level and get started with NetworkBox USA. So, Pierluigi and Lynn, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure. And, we're going to have to do this again. I think we messed up at the first few minutes of the recording, but we recovered. We did it gracefully, and we'll do it again. Hey,
All right.
thanks, guys. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.